Well, I think we'll get started. I'm going to turn off these lights back here so we can see the slideshow better. And it should be, yeah, that's enough light to... Well, welcome everyone. I appreciate you coming out on a Saturday morning in the fall and when we have such beautiful weather. My name's Evans Bailey. I'm a volunteer, a field investigator with the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, and we're here to talk about Bigfoot in Oklahoma. I'm also a part of, and mainly a part of, the North Canadian River Project, where we've been researching and investigating field reports, eyewitness reports of these creatures from in the North Canadian River corridor. And we've taken reports from Calumet all the way down through El Reno, Concho, Yukon, Stinchcomb Refuge, and then we've even, as it goes over to the Arkansas River, we have taken a report from the Highway 27 bridge at Okemah, way in eastern Oklahoma. So I originally got involved with this group, North Canadian River Project, because I lived in Yukon at the time and had just been to the Honabi Bigfoot Conference down in southeastern Oklahoma, way down like between Tallahena and Broken Bow. They have an annual Bigfoot conference and festival down there every year at a church camp at Honabi, Oklahoma. Honabi is a Choctaw word, and that's right in the heart of Choctaw country. And got excited about it, and then Finding Bigfoot, everybody remember that TV show? That's where a lot of people got excited about Bigfoot. That came and actually did 2 episodes here in central Oklahoma, and they had a town hall meeting at the Express Ranch barn out north of Yukon, and my daughter and I got to go out there and sit in on the town hall meeting, and just fascinating stories, lots of fascinating stories. Now they whittle it down to just a few for the TV show, but we were there almost 3 hours listening to eyewitness reports from across the state, really. And so anyway, that I got all fired up again. I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma. I'd always heard stories about these creatures, and when I was in, say, middle school, high school, I grew up in McAllister. That was about the time that the Fouke, Arkansas Boggy Creek monster was popular. And the reports of that were coming in, and I even remember reading about it in the McAllister newspaper. And then we had our own called the Lake Eufaula monster that you'd hear reports of every once in a while. And then in Missouri, they had Momo, the Missouri monster, which was, they thought a Bigfoot creature. So I was fascinated by all these reports, and it, kind of always piqued my curiosity. But life goes on. You go to college, you get married, have kids, all that, and you try, do your career. And so I kind of forgot about it until that Finding Bigfoot came along, and then somebody invited me down to the Bigfoot conference at Honabi. Got real excited. I found out that this group had just started over at El Reno, and so got involved in that. And then through that, we've met a lot of Bigfooters through the Honabi conference and through NCRP. We met a lot of Bigfooters here in Oklahoma, several groups. And so we all came together, and of course this is typical habitat along the Canadian River. You're probably familiar with that. Wide river, big sandbars. Sandbars are really great for finding footprints. Then we got involved in this Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, a statewide organization that 3 tribal members started from the Honabi conference. One was Choctaw, one Cherokee, and one Muskogee Creek. And they wanted to bring the research groups across the state together, and we'd all share ideas, and sometimes we go on expeditions together. We exchange sighting reports, that sort of thing. And then their main goal was to bring the native perspective to this discussion, because the tribes have been dealing with these creatures for hundreds of years. And all of the North American tribes, Central America, South America, all have names for these creatures. They all have teachings and traditions and stories. And so, there's got to be something to it when they all, recognize these creatures. Now I would say as a generality, the tribes believe that these creatures are actually people. They're a tribe, an ancient tribe of people. And so they call them, some of their names that they call them mean the old ones, the ancient ones, the ones that came before. It's just fascinating to me to listen to all the stories from the tribes. And if you come to the Honabi conference on Friday evening and Saturday evening, about sundown, they have a council fire, and then people are invited to stand up and tell their eyewitness encounters and their stories of encounters with these creatures. And many times, a lot of the tribal members there will. And we have tribal members from all over the state and surrounding states that come. And so, on our website, on our website, I'll show you in a little while, we actually have an entire page devoted to the teachings of the different tribes, particularly here in Oklahoma, of what they believe about these creatures. And so I'll show that to you. Okay, so we're involved in NOBRO, and NOBRO is statewide. We do annual training for folks that want to volunteer to be a field investigator, and we take sighting reports. People, through our website, they can contact us, and we probably get, I would say we average 2 to 4 sighting reports a month. And then we have volunteer field investigators that will go out and meet with those people and interview the witness, take their report, and then we keep our own database. And I'll show you that too. You are welcome to access that through our website. It's open to the public. You can see it's separated by districts and counties, so you can see if maybe there's some reports in your county, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's what NOBRO is about. We also do public education events like this, like we come into the libraries. Just in this month alone, we've been all over the state talking to people, and it's just always fascinating to me to hear the stories, encounter stories that people tell. We were in Jay, Oklahoma and Grove, Oklahoma last week, and we had, over 80 people at the Delaware County Library in Jay, and then 60 people at the one in Grove the next night, and just story after story after story. So we try to go where there are hot spots and people are willing to tell us their stories. So it's just amazing. I'm always amazed. This week we were over at Choctaw, Oklahoma on Tuesday night, and Yukon Thursday night, where we heard more great stories and got to talk to a lot of people. So we really enjoy doing this. This is a really good outreach project for us. Also, we try to be a sympathetic ear, because we have just person after person that contacts us with their sighting report or with their experience, and they don't know who else to talk to, because if somebody has an encounter, and most people are not out searching for Bigfoot. Now, we go out on expeditions where we're actually looking for them, and maybe that's the wrong way to do it, because it seems like the people that have the best encounters are the folks that are out there just camping or hiking or fishing or hunting, and there it is, there it is on the trail. There it is on the other side of the pond. And so they weren't expecting that, of course, and they've always been told that these creatures are make-believe, they're a myth, they're a fable, and there it is. And so we talk to a lot of folks that have trouble accepting that, and of course they're upset, and then they go home from the encounter and they try to tell a friend or a family member, and what happens? They don't believe them. They may make fun of them. They may even, you're making it up, almost calling them a liar. And that causes a lot of problems, psychological problems from that, because they've witnessed something that is almost traumatic, depending on the type of encounter they have. And they need to talk to somebody about it. And if their friends and family reject them, then what happens to their story? What do? Yeah, they'll just clam up. They won't talk about it. And a lot of people, that's bothered for many, many years. I don't know how many people we've talked to that said, I haven't told anybody this story in 30 years, but now I want to share my story, because they know that we will listen, we're empathetic, most of our field investigators, well, all of our field investigators have had some kind of encounter, but most of us have had Class A, what we call visual sightings. On the encounters, we divide them into 3 classes. Class A is a visual sighting. I saw it, there it was, standing there in the trail. Class B is I might have heard some whoops or wood knocks or roars or howls or some kind of strange sound that I know, hey, that's not your native wildlife. You might have found footprints or a wad of hair or something like that. It's another type of evidence. And then Class C is, say, your best friend sees one and they tell you about it, and you come to one of these programs and you didn't see it, but you tell us the story about your friend that saw it. So Class C is second hand or third hand, but still a valid report. And if you can give us contact information, we'll talk to that person and see if they're willing to give us a report. One of our goals is to gather as much evidence, good solid evidence as we can. Eyewitness reports are very important to that. And whatever field evidence we can find to present this to mainstream conventional biologic science and say, look at this mountain of data and evidence, and try to get them excited about it. And some are. They're becoming more and more interested in pursuing research into that. So anyway, we'll talk about some more of those things later. But that's kind of what we do in Nobro. This is probably the most iconic picture of a photo of a Bigfoot or film of a Bigfoot. Everybody's seen this image. It's on all the Bigfoot merchandise. The famous Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967 on 8mm film of Patty. They nicknamed her Patty. On Bluff Creek in Northern California, Humboldt County, where Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were on horseback and came upon this creature. Originally it was squatted down in the creek, and then whenever they came up over the rise on their horses, it stood up, or she stood up and moved off into the woods. Now, there have been several graphic artists that have taken that film and stabilized it, colorized it, and so that's probably one of the most detailed and best profile shots that you'll see, and that was by a person named M.K. Davis out of Texas. So,
what did they say the distance was from where he shot the film from?
I believe that it was like 70 yards, something like that. Yeah.
Not quite a football field. Right.
And why it didn't already see or hear them, there's just been speculation that they're on horseback. The smell of the horses may have covered up the human smell so that she didn't realize there was humans around. The sound of the creek that was running through there, Bluff Creek, could have been loud enough that she didn't hear them approach. She was evidently involved in something very detailed there at the creek. They're not sure what she was doing, but she was originally squatted down. Of course, the horses bolted whenever they came up over the rise and saw the creature, and they both jumped off their horses. Roger was trying to get he's the one that actually did the filming. He was trying to get his camera out of the saddlebag. So if you see the entire film, at the first it's just like this because he's running with the camera trying to get to a stable spot. And that's when she stands up and starts walking away and looks back at them. Bob Gimlin was trying to hold the horses steady, and also he did have a rifle just in case things got bad. So Roger had yelled at Bob when they jumped off the horses to cover him because they didn't know what it was going to do. And so anyway. Was
there intention to find Bigfoot?
Yes, he was they'd been hearing so many reports from that area that they spent several days looking. Yeah, they were intending to spend some weeks up there looking for it.
Wow.
There was a businessman that was financing their expedition. But that's probably the most iconic and best photo of a Bigfoot. And then we also have, here's an artist sketch from an eyewitness. It has the typical Bigfoot features, the tall conish head, broad shoulders, appears to have no neck, long arms, shorter legs, but of course the large feet, and then hair covered, that sort of thing. So, but I will tell you, in Oklahoma, that's not the typical sighting report. Or I should say in the South. In the southern states, that's not the typical sighting shape of a Bigfoot. A lot of times we get, in fact, the one I saw was, it was tall. It was probably about 7 feet tall, but it was real thin and gangly and had long hair. And on the top of the head was conish, but it stood up like a mohawk. Just saw it for a couple of seconds as it crossed the trail in front of me and my brother, but when I saw it, it reminded us of like a tall, gangly teenager. You know, it didn't have a real fluid motion, but I don't know. For some reason, it just reminded us of like a teenager. But it was real thin and it was hairy, and it was solid black. We were watching it, profile cross the trail, so we didn't really get any look at the face, but we could tell the brow ridge, deep set eyes brow ridge, and the nose and the chin. But other than that, we couldn't see any facial details. But it was tall and skinny. It wasn't the big linebacker looking Bigfoot. And who knows, that could be the result of climate. Our climate's much warmer. It could be the result of diet, that maybe they don't have as much to eat, that sort of thing. So could be some different reasons of why ours aren't usually reported as the huge, big, thick Bigfoots.
Where was your location?
Boktuklo Mountain in Pushmataha County, the Kaimishi Mountains, down about 2 miles south of Honubby. That was quite an evening. We had really stirred them up. What we felt like was our group had come in. We were on a logging road on the ridge of Boktuklo Mountain, and Boktuklo in Choctaw means two creeks. And so we were on top of the ridge. It fell away to a creek down here, and it fell away to a creek down there. So we were between two creeks. And what we theorized later, after all the commotion, was evidently when we showed up, and there was other people with us, when we showed up, the group was separate. Their creatures were separated on either side of the road, doing whatever, looking for food or whatever. And all of a sudden, we were there. Now we were between them. And the one that my brother and I saw was crossing back over the road. We felt like he got nervous because he peeked out at us first. I nudged my brother. I said, "Did you see that?" Because it leaned out from the side of the road. Of course, pine trees grow right up to the side of just a dirt track. And then he said, "Yeah." And then it just stepped across 2 steps. And we just felt like it got nervous. And it was wanting to get back to wherever Mama and Daddy were, and so it just broke cover and ran for the other side. But all night long we had heard, we'd had rocks thrown at us, not big rocks, little rocks. Although at the end, one of our people did have a football-sized rock thrown at him. We heard chattering, whispering. Something was beating the heck out of a rock down in that creek. And then the final straw was, because we just kept staying, and it got late, and I think they just thought, okay, we got to do something to get these people out of here. And a tree got pushed over, and we could hear it. It was a beautiful night. It was a real calm night. It was early summer, and it was just like crack, 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 boom. And then one of our members went walking down the road toward it, and then this football-sized rock comes over the tops of the trees and lands right in front of him. And then something down in the creek bottom over here screamed really loud. And we thought, uh-oh. And our guide said, that could be the alpha male. He's had enough. And then that's when I picked up my chair and I said, I'm going back to the cabin. And so then it screamed again, and we could tell it was much closer. It was coming up the side of that mountain. And we all said, it's time to go. Because I said, I don't want to meet whatever's making that sound. So we felt like that, because usually Well, from what we've been able to tell, it seems to us from our research that they're either in a small family clan group, they live in a small family clan group that moves through, in and about an area, or it's a single male. And if you think about it, as their family grows, the young males are going to get kicked out to go start their own family. And so, and it depends on what you run into. People ask me, are they violent? Well, they will throw rocks, they will growl, they'll scream, they'll do stuff like that. They just want you to leave. I don't think we've ever taken a report of someone actually getting physically attacked, but they do try to intimidate you enough to leave. So, anyway.
Did you ever go back to that same location?
Yeah, I've been back several times. In fact, I took some of our group there to show where it happened just, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. And now there's 3 cabins built right in that area. So, and we talked to one of the cabin owners. He said he hadn't seen anything. But we noticed there was no evidence of any activity anymore. So, yeah, they're building cabins between Broken Bow, Tallahena, they're building cabins everywhere. So anyway, they may have pushed them out of that area. People often say, well, where's a good photo of them? Why come we don't have trail camera photos? How come we don't have, well, this is an old trail camera photo from southwestern Oklahoma, down around Anadarko, from Randy Yepaw, Kiowa, from March 2001. Of course, that's, the old style trail cameras, they still had the light bulb flash, and so you can see how the light reflects off the brush there. But what else do you see in this photo? You can see an eye here. You can see the reflection of the flash in this eye. You can see nostril, and here, what do you see? Some lips, a mouth.
So is this a blown up photo?
Yeah, this is an enlargement from the trail camera photo. Then we had a graphic designer take that photo and extrapolate what they felt like it would have looked like if you removed the brush. And so that's the face that you get. What do you notice about the eyes? Yeah, solid black. There's no whites of the eyes, and from eyewitnesses we get those reports that the eyeball completely filled the eye socket. There was no white around the eyes, and that could be one reason why they can see so well in the dark. They have a larger eye with a larger tapetum, lipidum in the back that reflects light, collects and reflects light, and so would help them see in the dark. There's not a lot of facial hair, and a lot of the reports we get of people that get a good look at them talk about some have facial hair, some don't. It just varies. This is an old map, but it does kind of give you an idea of the number of sighting reports, Class A sighting reports across Oklahoma. And of course, you see more in some of the counties out to the east. Why would that be? More trees, more cover, more water, more wildlife to eat. Yeah, mountainous areas, better places to hide. But there are a lot of reports in western Oklahoma, and particularly when you really start looking at exactly where the sightings occurred, it's usually along a river, a creek. There's got to be a waterway there, and if you think about it, that's the habitat they need. They need food, water, and cover. And down along the rivers and creeks, then you'd have food, water, and cover. But yeah, one of the big hot spots is around in Canadian County. You see, even back then there was 51 reports, or 51. Around the El Reno, Concho, over between Calumet and El Reno, along the North Canadian River there. That's where the famous, there's the casino video you may have heard about, where the Bigfoot walks under the vapor light and starts digging in the grease pit behind the casino kitchen. from 2010. Yeah, that's where that was occurred.
Talking about Lucky Star?
Right. Yeah, and that light and that grease pit are still there, and there are still reports from that area. So, and I'll show you an up-to-date sightings map here in just a little bit. And there's a website that you can go to, and you can look at the one on our website also. This is some of the basic field equipment that we use. Parabolic microphones, the thermal FLIR, forward-looking infrared FLIR, trail cameras, night vision scopes. Audio recorders is very important. Audio is some of the best evidence because it's very difficult to fake audio. Because you can actually put the audio on a spectrograph and look at it in megahertz, and each different type of creature has a particular signature of megahertz in the audio spectrum, so you can separate out, and we'll listen to that some here in a little bit. So what are we looking for? Well, footprints are always nice. What do you kind of notice about this footprint? Besides it being wide, long, what do you notice about the toes?
The pinky toe is huge.
Yeah, and the big toe, and they're kind of splayed out there. Yeah. That was on the Canadian River. Now we cast a human footprint, and it's over here. So we had one of our members volunteer to cast his footprint, typical size 10 male. And if you notice, look how thin it is. You've got the arch here. You've got toes all squeezed together. Why are our toes all squeezed together? Because we wear shoes. That's right. So that's when we're looking at footprints, we're trying to decide, could it be human? Could it be a hoax? Could it be real? We look for an arch in a human foot. We look for toes close together. We look for the long, thin profile. And on the Sasquatch, what we believe are Sasquatch prints, you see that it's much wider. The toes are kind of splayed out. The heel, look how much wider the heel is. And then there's this weird-looking ridge in the middle. No arch, but a ridge. And Dr. Jeff Meldrum at Idaho State University, he studied that a lot because he first got interested because somebody said, hey, we found this line of footprints. We'd like for you to come look at them in the mud, prints in the mud. And he went and looked at it, and he was fascinated. And so he is a professor of anatomy and particularly foot morphology, how the foot works and moves. And his theory is that they have what's called a mid-tarsal flexion. Their foot is so large and it's bearing so much weight that it's actually, to do that, and from the shape of the footprint, there's a hinge in the middle of their foot. We don't have that. And so when they leave a print, it actually leaves this little ridge he calls a mid-tarsal flexion. And something that we see in this print is a little bit different, is what we call dermal ridges. You can see some of the dermal ridges here, which are, if you look at your palm, you've got dermal ridges, these little lines and whorls. You've got the same thing on the bottom of your feet, and your toes have whorls on them too. So when we're trying to decide if this is a hoax, we look at if there are dermal ridges in the print. Because usually if somebody's faking it, they're not going to think about putting dermal ridges in there. And we also look at depth. How deep is the print? So we look at length, width, and depth. And as a general rule, what we like to see is, if we go back to, we like to see the width of the foot should be about half of the length. Then you know that it's probably not a human foot when you get one that's half as wide as it is long. So,
using the footprint, are they able to tell the weight?
Oh, I guess you could get a good guesstimate, but you'd have to. It depends on what what substrate the footprint is in. Is it in gravel? Is it in mud? Is it, soil, regular soil? Yeah, so, I'm sorry?
Or if it's in clay?
Yeah, it's in clay or sand or, what type of soil it's in. So, but I'm sure if we had an expert engineer, we could get a good estimate of weight. That's a good question. This is a footprint trackway that I found in Stinchcomb in 2019 in the middle of winter. And in fact, you can still see some frost and a little bit of snow from, what do you call that? Flurries, from snow flurries. Because when I hit the refuge that morning, it was 28 degrees. So you see a line of footprints. What do you notice about this line of footprints here? Yeah. What I noticed was that they're almost straight looking down and what I noticed also, because there's a lot of people that, of course this was around the back of the refuge, this little perimeter road goes all the way around the refuge, for fire control. But it's walking in the bar ditch. Now why would you, if you find a lot of human tracks and dog tracks in the road, but why would you walk down in the bar ditch when it's wet and muddy? That just doesn't seem like, and like I said, when humans walk, we walk offset, like left, right, left, right. This is almost like a tightrope walk. And it came out of the woods, just in the middle of the woods, just comes out of the woods, goes about 20, 25 yards, it goes right back in the woods. So it was just strange. And that's what we look for when we're looking for field evidence. We look for stuff that just sticks out, that's unusual, that looks like it's out of the norm. It's out of the norm for your usual wildlife or human behavior. So, yeah, and some of those footprints were a few inches deep. But yeah, that just caught my attention. This was a trackway that we had found also out in the marsh when the marsh dried up, but there were some big footprints left out there. This was a footprint on a sandbar near the river, and it's a small print. That's my boot. It's a size 10 boot. This was only a 9-inch footprint, but it was nearly 4 inches deep. And I tried to make an impression, and I could maybe make a 1/2 inch with a boot. That foot, even though it was small, it must have had significant weight because it sunk nearly 4 inches, and I couldn't get mine to do that. Very interesting. Some cast collection of our friend Jim Whitehead. Now, this cast that we have over here, this is that cast, or one of those casts. This is an 18-inch cast from Honubby Creek down in southeastern Oklahoma. So this is Jim Mordecai, one of our founding members from the Muskogee Creek Nation. So in his left hand would be on the right side of the screen there. That's this print. So there was a guy hunting hogs down on Honubby Creek, and he found this line of prints, and he knew some of our members from there, and he went and got them and said, "Hey guys, you need to come down here and look at these." So they went down there, looked at the footprints, measured them, and cast them. This was the original print. That's the original print in the mud down there in the creek bottom that the cast was made from. But it didn't stay just down in the creek bottom. It actually turned at one point and went up the bank. And what do you notice about that print?
It's deep on the backside and on the front.
Yeah, you see the heel digging down and the toes are kind of going to the side. It's trying to climb. It slid a little bit, trying to go up the creek bank there. That was the gentleman's, that was his hunting knife. That's an 8-inch knife. So that's all he had to measure scale with it. But anyway, so it's weird how much different the print looks on dry soil versus the mud that from the creek. Just interesting. And we appreciate people bringing it to our attention when they find things like that. We just look for strange stuff like stick structures. Could it have been done by humans? What what strength would it take to move, large logs? Have they been cut, or are they broken? I mean, if it's been cut with a saw, it's more than likely humans have done it. That was up near Woodward on the North Canadian River. Then tree twists, different types of tree formations. This was a tree twist. We could see it off the trail. This was also in the Kiamichi Mountains. And that's my youngest brother on the left. And then on the right is Professor Marvin Leeper from Tishomingo at Murray State College. And they're looking at this tree twist. It's a 4-inch little oak tree. And we could see it. We walked back there to it. It was the only tree in that area that was damaged. So we were trying to decide, well, could it have been a windstorm, tornado, ice storm? But it was still green. It was still oozing sap. And it still had green leaves on one end. So it had been done fairly recently. But you can see where something just twisted that tree and laid it over. Just really interesting. They were checking the bark to see if they could find any hair or any evidence like that.
So what's the theory behind it?
They may have been marking something. Now, what's interesting, one of the things we kind of think from looking at these tree formations is that the direction that the broken over part is pointing. There was a creek down there, not much further down at the bottom of that hill. So if it's pointing toward a water source, could it be a trail marker? Go this way? So we don't know, but just theory. But they do that for some reason. It could have been an intimidation display. Don't know. It's always interesting and curious. Here's some more formations we found. There's a game trail. There's a game trail to the left of these two formations. The game trail starts right there and goes back in the woods. So you've got an X here and a broken over piece here. Who knows what those mean, but they just stood out. They were just unusual. We hadn't found that anywhere else up and down that trail, up and down that road. It was actually an old forest logging road. What do you think an X would mean to us? Stop, keep out, don't go any further. Why it's pointing this way? Because you'll find them broken over like that, but they're pointing in different directions. So we're trying to figure out the direction that it's pointing. Does that mean something? But the X, it might not mean keep out to them. It could be a boundary marker where they're saying, this. Our clan has grabbed this territory, and it could be a signal to others that, hey, this territory here is taken. We don't know, but it's very interesting. This was an archway in Stinchcombe Refuge, and it's amazing how tall that tree is. But the top of it, you can't see, is over here. It's being held down. It had been wrapped with greenbrier vine. If you're familiar with greenbrier vine that has the thorns on it and all that. It had been wrapped to hold that tree down. What the archway means, I don't know. We don't know. Yeah, we do see that. We see tree bows a lot. And what we look for is what's holding the top down. Or did the tree just grow that way if there's nothing holding the top down? Could it have been from windstorm damage, ice storms? We have a lot of ice storms in central Oklahoma. What could have caused that tree to do that if, when the other trees around it are just fine? Is the top of the tree being held down with something? Sometimes it's vines. Sometimes it's actually other trees crisscrossed across it, or one giant log holding it down. Don't know. But that's a big one. We had gotten word that over on the river near El Reno, the gauging station had been vandalized. And we went over there to look at that. That's one of our members, Jody Blaylock. We went over there to look at that damage, and something had ripped the cover off the box here. What this does is it measures the depth of the river and sends it. They'll have a microwave dish at the top of the antenna, and it will send a signal back to the U.S. Geological Survey, and it'll tell them how, like especially when it's flooding, how deep the river is at that gauging station. But the box is electrified, but something had ripped the doors off, pulled the guts out, and the antenna mast was like 3-inch galvanized pipe, and about 8 foot up, something had just bent it over like, it would have taken strength to do that. And so that's what Jody's inspecting there, the antenna, and trying to imagine what could have done that. And in fact, we were told that the station stopped working at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So, who's out there? And could it have been kids? Could it have been, well, maybe. But there's actually, and this was in the middle of the night. There are thorn things all around here. So, but we didn't find any footprints. We didn't find any boot prints. Of course, it's all grassy and kind of in a grown-up area. But anyway, we didn't find any handprints or footprints or anything on the box. We weren't out there immediately after this happened. We were there probably, 30 days after it happened. So it's just interesting to look at the damage, try to figure out what could have done that, how much strength it would have taken. This is a T-post found in southwestern Oklahoma near Eakley. A rancher had found, and something had just bent it like a horseshoe. So that was kind of weird. We used the forward-looking infrared FLIR image, thermal. It captures heat, and we had the FLIR set on white, so the hottest colors would show up brightest white. And we were looking down from an abandoned bridge and looking in the brush on the side of the river. And you can see this is the brush on the side of the river. This is the river bank up here in the sky. And there's something here squatted down in the brush. But it's interesting that you see the wide shoulders, see the conical head, and it shows up all white. When you look at a human wearing clothes in a FLIR, you see the clothing, because it'll get cooler where the clothing covers the body heat of the skin. Here, you don't see much color variation at all. So whatever that is not wearing clothes. That's squatted in the brush. We watched it for 20 minutes. It never moved. Well, the head would bob up and down a little bit. But what's weird is we heard a big, huge noise at the other end of the bridge. So we walked down that way, and of course, when we came back, it was gone. So I can't get these to work, but I do have some audio that we'll look at on our website. This was a scream that was recorded down in the Honobia area in 2015. All right. And it sounded much like the screams that I heard down in the mountains there that one night that we think that group was so upset. People always ask us about DNA evidence. Well, what's the problem with DNA evidence? Well, the problem is there's no type specimen anywhere in a lab that the public is aware of, that we know of, that you can compare DNA. You got to have a type specimen to match to in a data bank before you can say, okay, it's exactly that. But as far as we know, there's no Sasquatch anywhere in a lab where we can match DNA to. So that makes it tough, because people that have submitted what they believe is DNA evidence, it comes back as human, it comes back as, or some other type of wildlife, or it comes back just as unknown or contaminated sample or something like that. So it's really difficult. Also, it's extremely expensive. It's getting less expensive, but we had collected what we thought would be some DNA evidence, and I called to DNA Solutions downtown here. They're world-renowned DNA lab, and I asked. I looked at their website, and it said they did accept wildlife samples, and so I called. And I said, well, I didn't want to tell them, I said, I've got a Bigfoot sample. I said, I've got a wildlife sample I'd like for you to run. What would be the fee for that? And they said $3,000. So, that for just, we just can't afford to do that sort of thing. There was a college up in Canada that was running DNA samples for only a few $100s before the pandemic, but then once the pandemic hit, and I don't think they've ever picked it up again. Now, there was a Sasquatch Genome Project back in 2011, 2012, where Dr. Melba Ketchum in Texas had put out a request among the Bigfoot research groups for if you've got samples of hair or tissue or something that you think might be DNA evidence of a Sasquatch, submit it. And I think they got around 100 samples from all over the country. And they took them a few years to process, but they did publish their results in 2013 and sent it out for confirmation. And they did get peer review, but a lot of the ones that peer reviewed, a lot of the organizations they sent it to peer review, did not want their name associated with it, but they did say, yeah, you found something, but don't put our name on it. So she submitted it to GenBank, which is the Human Genome DNA Worldwide Bank, and they rejected it because it wasn't purely human. But she submitted it to ZooBank, which is the one for wildlife, and they did accept it, and they assigned it a Latin name of Homo sapiens cognatus, which means blood brother. And what she found in their study was the maternal, from what I understand, and I'm not a geneticist, so don't, but the maternal mitochondrial DNA was human. The paternal nuclear DNA was unknown primate. It was primate, but it was not a known primate. So anyway, that's the best we have right now. Of course, there's exciting new studies with environmental DNA, where they go out and take a stream sample or a soil sample or something, and they try to classify all the DNA that's found in that and match it up to, species. And there's some exciting things going on there. And then North Carolina State University, there's a professor there named Darby Orcutt. He is requesting until the end of this year the same thing. If you've got anything that you think might be a Sasquatch sample, hair, bone, tissue, whatever, please send it in, and they're going to do try to recreate this study and see if they can get matching results or whatever kind of results they get. But I understand he's gotten several hundred samples. So anyway, so there are some things going on with DNA, but like I said, until we have a big hairy body somewhere in a lab, then it's going to be tough. But that's what's going on with DNA. Questions at this point?
How do you tell male from female? Just by looking at them.
Well, like in the instance of Patty on the Patterson-Gimlin film, did you notice anything about Patty's?
Did she have boobs?
Yeah,
Okay.
she did.
I
Had
wasn't
breasts.
trying to look at her boobs.
And
She had like coconut,
and
Yeah.
and like bigger thighs.
And yeah, we have had people in their eyewitness report say that, well, I did notice some anatomy, you know. So yeah, does appear to be, you can kind of tell. So anyway, other evidence that we have, one thing I wanted to show you that's really cool is now, because, you know, carrying that plaster around is really heavy in your backpack. And so now they have apps like Scaniverse. This was done in Scaniverse, where you can actually do a 3D scan of a footprint. And the Scaniverse, which it's Scaniverse, Scaniverse, it has another part of the program that will actually tell you the length, width, and depth of the footprint, and you get a 3D view of the footprint. So I thought that's pretty cool. That beats having to mix up plaster and carry plaster and all that. So that's...
So using that, can you actually make a mold from it?
Yeah, I guess you could, yeah. Yeah. But it seems like every time I find a good footprint, I don't have any plaster with me, because it is heavy to carry. Some various footprints that we've found.
Are you
There's
using
Chris.
drones more now?
Yes. Yeah, we have one of our members that that has a drone. He's been using that.
Does it have a heat sense on it also?
No. It does have a camera, but it doesn't have heat
I mean, that'd
or
be
thermal.
awesome.
It doesn't have thermal
You know,
on it.
considering if you're doing a night and they're active at night.
Yeah, that would be cool. The drawback we've noticed on using the drone is it makes a lot of noise. So I mean, it
Not all
sounds
of them do though either.
sounds like a giant mosquito.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if that tips them off, but now, you know, like that.
Oh, they might get hungry.
Yeah.
Giant mosquito, okay.
The expedition Bigfoot folks, you know, they have a lot of fancy equipment. I noticed they had some silent drones with thermal on there. That would be nice to have.
Yeah.
That would be nice to have. We would love for somebody to give us a grant to do something like that. But here's
Is that how you fund your research, is donations?
donations. Yeah, we're just volunteers. We just put our money together, and different members buy different pieces of equipment. Here's a track we found. The park naturalist at Chandler Park in Tulsa, which is there on the Arkansas River. She was preparing to do a hike and found a footprint on the trail going across the trail instead of down the trail. And she actually contacted us, and we came out and cast and measured 17-inch footprint. Of course, with it being along the Arkansas River there, that kind of captured our attention. So yeah, FLIR. This was along the Polecat Creek near Hayburn Lake on the southwest side of Tulsa. We were stopped on the bridge there at Polecat Creek, and we're shooting the FLIR up the creek, and we noticed something was peeking out and watching us from behind a tree. We had it set for white hot, and something here keeps peeking out at us. You'll notice it, and it's a little bit warmer than the surrounding. We just had a big thunderstorm rain shower, and yeah, it's watching us from behind that tree. That's about 40 yards down the creek there. So that's where we use FLIR. But audio recordings, what's nice is you can take an audio recording, you can actually, there are programs that will put it on a spectrograph for you, and you can see at what hertz and megahertz the vocalization is made. We try to have audio recordings going as much as possible, especially at night. This one I like. I wanted you to hear this one. This one was also from around Hayburn Lake. There's going to be 3 different types of creatures here. So what did you notice there? Well,
Sound like a coyote.
you got this long,
I heard the howl.
yeah, you got the long, low howl here that goes up and then trails off at the end. But here you've got the coyote. Let's see. Yeah, wild turkey. This is what gets me, is how it goes up here and then trails off here. I thought that was... But the coyote is at a much higher megahertz, a much higher pitch. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And look how long this howl starts over in here. It gets louder, goes up, gets louder, and then this whoo trails off here. That's
Coyotes' howls are shorter, and when I heard those howls, they're long, like something has a lot of breath.
yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah, and what we've noticed is when what we believe is the Sasquatch gets going, then it does set off the coyotes. It also set off a gobbler up in a tree somewhere. This was recorded down on Honubby Creek. Yeah, we've tried matching that to bird sounds. We haven't been able to do that yet. So don't believe it was a bird. Again, with tree structures, here's some different tree structures that were found, especially the twists. It's interesting. Yeah, there's Chris.
You had a sample you thought maybe could have been Sasquatch. What did you guys end up doing with it?
We left it alone. In fact, I didn't put it on here. I should, but it's kind of gross. It was some scat. I have it on my phone. It was some poop we found on a sandbar in the middle of the river, and it was, if you would have stretched it out, it would have been well over 2 feet long and about 3 inches around. So, must be 12. But anyway, I've got pictures of that if you want to see it. But it's some big poop. But nobody volunteered to want to take it home and put it in their freezer. But anyway, I want you to check out and I have some cards up here with the website address on it, nobrobigfoot.org. That's where we post all of our stuff. We have here the tribal traditions, what the different tribes have, their names and teachings for the different. And we've also got our sightings database. And the cool thing, Ryan White is our webmaster, and the cool thing is you can click on a sighting report. Well, I'll do the one here at Stinchcomb, and it'll bring up the report. Man and wife spot Bigfoot while kayaking, and you can read the report there. Then our database, there's a link to the database on the website, and you can read all the reports that have been submitted to us. There's about 150 reports or so. And one cool thing is you can go over to the site here and click this, and it will bring up the report, and it's much easier much easier to read there. Most of the reports are from Oklahoma, but we do have some from out of state too that have. So, and this one's cool because the witness actually provided an eyewitness drawing. So this was the drawing that the eyewitness provided to us of when he saw it when he was a little boy. Yeah, that's a picture of the poop there. Yeah. So yeah. So it's really cool when an eyewitness will give us a drawing of where it's found. But you have all the investigators' notes. You can read the report that the eyewitness gave us. So makes some interesting reading. Okay, any questions at this point? Oh, to contact us, I'm sorry, forgot about that. There is a contact us on the website, and we have the state divided up into districts, and you have the investigators, field investigators in that area, their email address, so you can contact them that way. Central Oklahoma is mostly included in our Southwest district. So that's a good way to get in touch with us. You can even type out your sighting report and eyewitness report and submit it that way. All right. Does anybody have a good story for us, an encounter where you've encountered one? Yes, sir.
The first time I encountered one, I bit it to grab my sister.
Really?
Younger than me.
Wow.
When two of my brothers grabbed her free leg, he grabbed her by the leg.
Wow.
And my brother heard her screaming, my oldest brother, and my other two brothers with me were younger than me. And he come running with a stake for it and started sticking it. But whenever I bit it, I bit the small part of his arm, and I closed my eyes because I was scared to look. And I didn't know that it let go of her, but it was going like this. And he couldn't shake me loose because I was going wherever she was, and my teeth was my hand.
Yeah.
And my brother started sticking it, and he said that it was a Bigfoot. But
Wow.
all I seen was a hairy arm reach around and grab my sister, and I bit the hairy arm.
Was this in the woods?
No, this was in our house when we lived opposite the next house.
Wow. So like it reached through a window? 65? Did it like reach through a window or?
No, on the roof of our house we had a dog house with a door, but we never had to lock the door because you have to get on the roof to get into the house.
Yeah. Wow.
But we were sitting right underneath the crawl hole of the attic, and whenever I did look, all I seen was a streak of black in the crawl of the attic.
Wow.
That was the first thing.
Yeah. So did you notice color of the hair or?
Yeah, I had to pull hair out of my teeth.
Oh, man.
Black.
Wow. Okay. And this was around 1965. What part of that Oklahoma?
Huh?
What part of Oklahoma?
This is in Norman, Oklahoma, off the Canadian River. We lived off the river.
Wow.
But I've had other encounters too.
Wow. Well, that reminds me, we do have some eyewitness encounter report forms up here. If you'd like to fill one out, we'd be happy to. We'd love to hear a story, an encounter report from. If you want to submit one of those, or you can take one with you. But and we have some other information here on NoBro and some of our cards and things like that. So there's a QR code there, and that'll take you right to our website.